As the sun rose over Shirayama Hill, only one body remained upright. It wasn't a legend, it was a man. Saigō Takamori, the last true samurai. What makes a man choose death on his feet, rather than life on his knees? To understand, we have to travel back in time, to a Japan on the brink of its own destruction and rebirth. Our story begins in southern Japan, in the domain of Satsuma. The year is 1828. A boy named Saigō Takamori is born into a poor low-ranking samurai family. From his earliest days, he is taught that duty is not just a part of life, it is life itself. He is raised under the strict code of Bushido, the way of the warrior. This code demands unwavering loyalty, unshakable courage, and the readiness for ultimate self-sacrifice. He breathes this code. It is in his blood. Little does he know, the destiny awaiting him is not one of quiet service but of fire, steel, and the heart-wrenching collapse of the world he was born to protect. For over 200 years, Japan had been a world unto itself. The Tokugawa shogunate enforced a strict policy of isolation, Sakoku cutting the nation off from the outside world. It was a time of peace, but also a time of stagnation. A society preserved in amber. Samurai were the ruling class, masters of the sword and guardians of a rigid social order. This was the Japan that Saigō knew, the only Japan that had existed for centuries. But the silence was about to be shattered. In 1853, a terrifying sight appeared off the coast of Edo Bay. Giant smoke-belching vessels, unlike anything the Japanese had ever seen. They called them the Black Ships. These were the steam frigates of American Commodore Matthew Perry, sent with a simple, non-negotiable demand: open your country to trade, or face the consequences. The roar of their cannons, fired as a demonstration of power, was a death knell for the old Japan. Steam, smoke, and steel had arrived, and the samurai, with their swords and ancient codes, would never be the same again. Japan was faced with a stark choice: modernize and join the world, or be conquered and colonized. In this whirlwind of change, Saigō Takamori emerged as a figure of immense influence. He was a giant of a man, not just in physical stature but in character and conviction. He rose through the political and military ranks, becoming a key advisor to the young Emperor Meiji. Takamori believed in a stronger, modern Japan, but one that held on to its soul, its honor. He played a pivotal role in the Boshin War, which led to the fall of the Tokugawa shogunate in 1868 and the restoration of direct imperial rule. This was the Meiji Restoration, an era of unprecedented lightning-fast change. Saigō was at its very heart, a hero who had helped birth a new nation. He dreamed of a Japan that was powerful on the world stage, yet still guided by the samurai principles of integrity and righteousness. But progress, as it so often does, came with a bitter price. The new government, in its rush to westernize, saw the samurai class not as the soul of Japan, but as a relic of the past, an obstacle to be removed. In a series of sweeping reforms, the samurai were systematically dismantled. Their domains were abolished, their stipends cut, and then came the final, most soul-crushing blow, the Heitere Edict. Samurai were forbidden from wearing their swords in public. The daishu, the paired long and short swords, were more than weapons. They were the physical embodiment of a samurai's identity, his honor, his very reason for being. To take away his swords was to erase his soul. The pride of a class that had ruled for 700 years was wiped away by the stroke of a pen. Disgusted and heartbroken, Saigō could not stand the new political climate in Tokyo. He saw corruption, greed, and an arrogant dismissal of the very traditions that had made Japan great. He watched as the politicians who once fought alongside him now imitated Westerners in dress and manner, casting aside their heritage. Unable to stomach this betrayal, he resigned from all his government posts and returned home to Kagoshima. But a man like Saigō Takamori cannot simply fade away. In Kagoshima, he became a magnet for the disaffected. Thousands of former samurai, now ronin without a master or purpose, flocked to him. They were men left adrift in a world that no longer had a place for them. They hadn't lost their wealth, many had little to begin with. What they had lost was their dignity, their purpose. Under Saigō's guidance, they established private military academies, not just to train in the arts of war, but to preserve the spirit of Bushido. They were clinging to the last embers of a dying fire, and Saigō was their reluctant guardian. The tension between the old and the new was a powder keg, and in 1877 it finally exploded. Sparked by a government provocation, the discontent boiled over into open rebellion. The Satsuma Rebellion had begun. Saigō, feeling a deep duty to the men who looked to him as their leader, reluctantly took command. He led an army of 40,000 traditional warriors against the new, modern imperial army, which was equipped with Western rifles, cannons, and a conscripted fighting force. Saigō knew this was a war he could not win. He was outmanned, outgunned, and outmaneuvered from the start. So why did he fight? Because this was not a war for victory, it was a war for honor. It was a final, defiant stand. Every battle, every charge against a hail of bullets with nothing but a sword and a battle cry, was a statement. It was a declaration to the new Japan that the samurai spirit would not just vanish quietly into the night. It would go down fighting, in a blaze of glory that would be remembered for all time. The rebellion raged for months, a bloody clash between past and future. The imperial army, with its overwhelming firepower, pushed Saigō's forces back, step by bloody step. The final chapter of this epic tragedy would be written on a small hill overlooking Kagoshima, Shiroyama, September 24, 1877. The once mighty army of 40,000 has been whittled down to just 500 men, surrounded and hopelessly trapped on Shiroyama Hill. They have no food, little ammunition, and no hope of escape. As dawn breaks, Saigō Takamori puts on his tattered military uniform. He grips his katana, the soul of the samurai. He and his men know what is coming. They are not waiting for rescue, they are preparing for death. As the imperial soldiers begin their final assault, a storm of bullets rains down upon the last samurai. Saigō looks at his loyal followers, men who have given everything for a cause they knew was lost. He is said to have whispered, "Our duty is done." In the chaos of the battle, a shot strikes him in the hip, a mortal wound. He can no longer stand. In his final moments, he does not surrender. He asks one of his most loyal comrades, Beppu Shinsuke, to perform the role of Kishakunin to grant him an honorable end by taking his head, sparing him the indignity of capture. His friend obliges. According to the legend that grew from that day, even after his head was severed, his body remained upright, refusing to fall, a final act of defiance. The man who had helped build the new Japan, Emperor Meiji himself, was said to have mourned the death of his former advisor and friend. He understood the tragedy of Saigō's position. Years later, in an act of reconciliation, the emperor officially pardoned Saigō Takamori, posthumously restoring his court rank. The rebel who died fighting the government was officially recognized as a national hero. Today, statues of Saigō Takamori stand tall in Tokyo's Ueno Park and in his hometown of Kagoshima. He is remembered not as a failed rebel but as the embodiment of integrity, courage, and selfless duty. His defeat became an eternal victory for the spirit he fought to protect. He died standing, but his spirit still walks through the heart of Japan's history, a timeless reminder that some things are worth more than life itself. Thank you for watching. If you want to uncover more true stories that time has refused to bury, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'll see you in the next one.